Hello everybody, I'm Charles Coves, Australasia's passion provocateur, and welcome to this week's episode of the Charles Coves Show. This week's big idea is to choose your heroes consciously. There are 5 wonderful rewards when you choose your heroes, and you are ripping yourself off if you don't grab these rewards. This weekly show is founded on the formula SA plus P equals S. Self-awareness plus passion equals success. Your self-awareness, together with the pursuit of your passion, will give you ongoing success. Since 1993, when I left my successful legal career to become Australasia's passion provocateur, I have shared this message of passion and the power that you get from it in workshops, in conferences, in one-on-one executive coaching, in my books, in my coaching of teams. These principles work. Passion and self-awareness are wonderful resources that you have available to you if you choose to grab them. This show is also guided by Socrates' famous quote, "The unexamined life is not worth living." I want you to have a life that is worth living, so I urge you to come on the journey that this show takes you on a weekly basis to help you keep examining your life. Now, before we get too serious, we need a bit of levity, Got a couple of short quotes here. If at first you don't succeed, destroy all evidence that you tried. Another one, if at first you don't succeed, then skydiving is not for you. I'm wearing my red jacket, red the colour of passion. So when you think of red, you think of me. You think of people who should be hearing this message about passion, and it should be a reminder to you to be pursuing, to discover, to find the resources to be able to pursue your own passion. The show explores one big idea so that you don't get too confused. I don't want to bombard you with a million ideas. One idea, one big idea, and during the course of the week you think about that one idea, and hopefully it makes an impact, a positive impact on your life. I also share with you in this show resources, a book that is useful, that ties into the theme of the big idea, a song. And the purpose of the song is to re-listen to the words of a song that you might know, but in the context of the week's big idea, it gives you a whole new perspective on the words of that song. I give you a spiritual tip, a health tip, as many gags as I can fit in, and anything else that occurs to me. This show is not politically correct, so I share my truth with you. I don't censor that based on whether I think it's politically correct or not, and I subscribe to the view that we are spiritual beings. We have a spirit. Human spirit is such an amazing resource. We are much more than just our brains and our bodies. That lies at the heart of this work as well. Ties in also with the definition of passion. One of the earlier episodes talked in some depth about that, as do my books. But passion is a source of unlimited energy from your soul, your spirit, your heart, that enables you to produce extraordinary results. Extraordinary results. So, what's happened in the last week since the previous show? Here in Victoriastan, led by little Stalin, commonly known as Daniel Andrews, our Premier, the martial law capital of the planet, the city that is more locked down than any other city on the planet, disgracefully so. I say again, disgracefully so. However, I assure you, I am not walking around depressed and down in the dumps, because the behaviour of this Victorian government is so galvanising me to fight for freedom, to do this work, and I can see that it's galvanising more and more Victorians and more Australians who are waking up that the damage caused by political decisions are far greater than, or the damage is far greater than any damage that a coronavirus can do. I urge the government to remove these lockdowns immediately. There is a clear, simple way forward to protect the vulnerable. We are destroying the lives of young people. They are supposed to be going back to school. The lack of social interaction of young people is disastrous for them. And I put on record now that we will see huge costs of this lockdown that were never calculated by these incompetent state governments in Australia, the federal government, and governments around the world. The calculations have not been done. And it is just simply disgraceful. And anyone who says the Victorian government, Dan Andrews, is doing a good job is simply ignorant. I say it again, I will keep saying it. They are ignorant if they believe that. Now, you might think I'm passionate about this. I am, because freedom is such a it is what makes us human. Now, during the week, I had a lovely compliment from one of our listeners, one of our viewers, clearly one of our viewers, because I got a message. Let's call this bloke Alex. We'll call him Alex because that's his name. He's been a friend of mine, a client of mine when I was a lawyer. He gave me a lovely compliment on my wonderful hair. So, as you can see, I have hair. And I'm well into my 60s, getting close to my 70s. And it is such a gift that I have this hair. My father didn't. My number 2 child, Matthew, he doesn't have a lot of hair. In fact, I think he's cut all of his hair off because he was going bald. So I am grateful for this hair. And Alex, thank you for your kind compliment. Julie and I have been maintaining our exercise, attending a lot of webinars. I kid you not, I'm working as hard as I've ever worked. The wonderful thing is, the effectiveness is at a high level. And the wonderful thing is I'm not wasting time traveling in traffic. Like, the traffic is magnificent. So it's a huge benefit of lockdown. I'm enjoying that benefit, I assure you. I've been doing a fair bit of work on constitutional law matters. I've been having ongoing discussions with people about coordinating opposition to government decisions in this country, but particularly against Daniel Andrews. The problem is that government has one message. The opposition to that message is a number of different messages. I consider we need to get a powerful, compelling idea that will unite people and educate them about the nonsense that is going on around this coronavirus. As the WHO, the World Health Organization, says, 99% of people who contract coronavirus have 0 or mild symptoms. And we are destroying Victoria's economy, Australia's economy, for a lie. There are serious constitutional law questions to be argued here, and I'm contemplating whether I want to do a crowdfunding exercise to raise money to issue proceedings against the Victorian government, against the federal government. Because on a federal level, even though the Australian government is doing better than the Victorian government, still it is outrageous, simply outrageous, that Australians can't leave the country and people can't come into this country except a limited number. And indeed, there are tens of thousands of Australians who want to come home, and they are prohibited from doing so. It makes no sense. It is constitutionally wrong. It is a breach of the treaties that we have signed with the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. So please think about those issues. Think about them in terms of your life, and think about the question. Do a real contemplation about your own thinking. Are you saying that what's happening is acceptable because you're all right? You know, the classic Australian comment, I'm all right, Jack. Therefore, I'm not worried about anybody else. I urge you to observe your own thinking about these issues. Think about your grandchildren, if you have any. Think about the impact on them. You see, the waste of money that is happening based on a lie, based on bad political decisions, is going to impact hugely on health availability, on the quality of roads, all sorts of impacts on education system, the money available for education. Why? Because we're all blowing it right now. So, before I get to the big idea, I better have a sip of coffee. My weekly addiction, actually my daily addiction. Stephanie, you'll be pleased that I'm doing that. Drink lots of coffee so people in the coffee industry and takeaway coffee places can keep surviving until we get rid of these lockdown laws, the martial law in this state. Love coffee. Now, before I get to the big idea, I invite you to subscribe to this podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and please share it. If you think it's good enough, please share it amongst your friends. I would be most grateful, and they will be grateful, because the ideas in this show are meant to improve people's lives. My books are available. Passionate People Produce Passionate Performance at covest.com. The covest.com website is for corporate programs, online corporate programs and public programs. And then charlescovest.com is focused on a group executive coaching program for C-suite executives, lawyers, dentists, accountants, called the Self-Awareness and Passion Quest. Take a look. It's an exciting quest to come with me on this quest. And you can also sign up for Passion Points to Ponder on the or either of the websites as well. And they're somewhat less regular than this show, but if you want to get some useful ideas to ponder, that's what I share with you. Now, to today's big idea. The wonderful rewards for you when you choose your hero. Who is your hero? Do you have one? Have you decided? Or do you think, oh, that person's interesting, that person's interesting? I want to urge you to identify 1, 2, or 3 heroes that will guide you, and I'm going to show you how they guide you and the rewards for their guidance. But I want to get you excited and committed to saying, yes, I've thought I've had heroes, but I really haven't been clear on who those heroes are. Now, one of your heroes could be your father, could be your mother, could be a grandparent, uncle, a relative. It doesn't have to be a famous person to be one or more of your heroes, and you can have a number. I have a number of heroes. One in particular I've spoken about in other shows, Buckminster Fuller, Dr. R. Buckminster Fuller, an American who died in 1983, having been born in 1895. Another of my heroes is Sir John Monash, who a former Premier of Victoria, Ted Baillieu, with whom I have swum many ocean water swims. He considers Sir John Monash, and I agree with him, as the greatest Australian. Sir John Monash. The Monash Freeway in Victoria is named after him. One of Australia's top 8 universities is named after Sir John Monash. Another one is my dad. You know, in the decisions that my dad made, and the thinking and the wisdom that lay behind that has been a wonderful guide for me. So Buckminster Fuller, called Bucky, Sir John Monash, my dad, and a few others. But let me tell you about Bucky, because I'm conscious that I've talked about him, but I haven't shared a lot with you. And say, why is Buckminster Fuller? Why is Bucky one of my heroes? Well, since 1993, when I stopped being a lawyer to become Australasia's passion provocateur, it's been very much influenced by the ideas of Bucky. He dedicated his life to making the planet work for everybody and not just a minority. He went big picture. He said, I'm going to dedicate my life to making spaceship Earth function for the benefit of all humanity, and to not create a system that can only function to the detriment of some people. He also urged everyone to do their own thinking. And of course, if you've listened to this show, watched this show, you will know that I urge you to do your own thinking. So I came upon Bucky in the 80s and then got more and more exposed to his thinking, his ideas, and I did business school in Hawaii. I went deeply, deeply into Bucky's teachings, and I consider myself an artifact of Bucky as well as others, but it is his ideas and his way of thinking about what are the generalized principles that govern the universe, that govern this planet that he called Spaceship Earth. We are all space men and women on this ball whizzing through space at thousands of kilometers an hour. We share this. He coined this, or he asked this great question. He said, when are you going to throw something out? Where are you going to throw it out to? Where is out? And of course, on our planet, there is no out. And if you study Bucky, you start to look at the interconnection of everything. You start to look at a whole new way of living sustainably, of not wasting resources, even though it's what he called an eternally regenerative universe. This man, Bucky, was awarded 47 honorary doctorates. Just think about that. 47 in his 87 years of existence. And most people listening to this podcast, watching this show, have never heard of Bucky. In fact, in all of my audiences, when I speak to an audience, I ask how many people have heard of Buckminster Fuller. It's very rare that more than 20% of the audience have heard of this wonderful man who Einstein called humanity's 20th century genius. I consider that Buckminster Fuller will be recognized for his genius as time goes on. He predicted that many of his ideas would not be embraced until 50 years after he died. Well, 50 years after he died in 1983, of course, is 2033, and we're only 13 years away from that, so it will be interesting. He also said to do your own thinking, and in the day-to-day media today, there's talk of artificial intelligence and robots replacing human beings. And there are people who say that our brains will be taken over and, we'll be able to put computers into our brains. A man called Raymond Kurzweil, he's held up as the guru of all this stuff. I say many of these ideas are nonsense. We do not have to take on board nonsensical ideas that for humanity makes no sense. So Bucky says, do your own thinking. I say, do your own thinking. He is my hero because he stood up and took the risks of doing his own thinking and suffered significant traumas, I assure you. Sir John Monash, what a man, what a guy. I will cover him in subsequent episodes, but gosh, I read a number of his biographies. The tragedy is, I got a master's degree in law from Monash University. No one ever taught me about Sir John Monash. Two of my 5 children, Tim and Nick, they both went to Monash University. The students at Monash are not taught about one of the greatest Australians of all time. What does that tell you about the quality of education at our universities? So, let me give you the 5 of many rewards that you will experience when you choose your hero or heroes. Number 1, knowing who your hero is helps you make decisions. Difficult decisions. Decisions that require you to make value judgments. You say, what would Bucky do? That's what I say. What would Bucky do? What would Sir John Monash do? What would my dad do? So you get help in making decisions. Number 2, knowing who your hero is gives you a standard to which you can aspire to. Do not aspire to the standard of our Premier Daniel Andrews. He is a liar. He is incompetent. Don't aspire to that standard. Aspire to a standard, and when you know what that is, it gives you something tangible to which you can work to. And when you can see what you can work to, that energizes your efforts in developing yourself in your learning and development journey. Your third reward for choosing your hero. It's aligned to the first two. It helps you become more disciplined. In earlier shows, I've talked about discipline. Discipline is the key to your freedom. When you are disciplined, so many freedoms open up to you. When you know who your hero is and that hero guides you, then it helps you stick with your disciplines. The fourth reward. Your hero, and when I say it's singular, I mean plural, is a source of advice for you via your subconscious mind, via your soul, via your alpha state of thinking, and you can ask your hero for advice. And through meditation, through accessing your subconscious mind, through the messages that you get from your hero, you can get excellent advice on today's problems. The fifth reward for you is that your hero helps keep your hopes up when times are tough, because every hero goes through enormous difficulties. I can't imagine that you would choose a hero whose life consisted of pure ease and comfort. When you understand the life story of your hero, when you spend time studying it, you see the enormous difficulties, the challenges, the effort, the discipline they went through. And they're our heroes because of often what they achieved, what they went through. Nelson Mandela, 27 years of solitary confinement. And so when you see that, what your heroes put up with, it helps you go, wow, this coronavirus lockdown, it's not going to kill me. The challenges that I'm going through is not going to kill me. Like my parents going through 6 years of World War II, it's not going to kill me. And the only failure, the only true failure as a human being is when you give up. And so when you know who your hero is, you go, one, my hero would never give up. But two, your hero almost inevitably went through enormously difficult times and did not give up hope. So, 5 wonderful rewards. Choose. And if you haven't been accessing the advice from your heroes, you know who they are, please remind yourself. This show is to remind yourself of the resource that you have available to you. So, of course, the song that supports this journey of your hero, of course, is The Wind Beneath My Wings. Wonderful song, but the beauty of this song, even though it was what's called a chick flick, that movie moved me because of the quality of relationship between two women. The chorus, did you ever know that you're my hero? And everything I would like to be, I can fly higher than an eagle, for you are the wind beneath my wings. So, no more singing, just a little bit. You can send me an email at charles@covest.com. I'll do some more singing for you. But did you ever know that you're my hero? So as you listen to this song, think about it in the context of your consciously chosen hero or heroes, one at a time. It'll give you a whole new understanding of what that song is about. The book I want to recommend to you is Heroes, the World's Greatest Men and Women. It's compiled by Simon Sebag Montefiore. The details are in the show notes. Why? Because if you haven't decided who your hero is, reading stories about the greatest men and women in history, one, will inspire you, and two, help you choose who resonates with you. Doesn't matter who it is. That's the one who should be your hero, who you can choose safely as your hero. Trust your intuition. My spiritual tip this week is to do something courageous. Remember, courage comes from your soul. What have you been putting off? And if we're talking about heroes do courageous things. I urge you this week, my spiritual tip to you is to do something courageous that you have been avoiding. My health tip is apple cider vinegar. If you've never heard of apple cider vinegar, please, in the show notes, there is a wonderful book, one of the classic books on apple cider vinegar. It is a wonderful tonic for your health. Please take a look at it. The quote of the show is part of a quote that was quoted by Nelson Mandela, who is a hero for many people, in his inauguration as President of South Africa. And it was first found in Marianne Williamson's book, A Return to Love. Marianne Williamson, just by the bio, she was a potential presidential candidate in the US. And the quote starts like this: "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure." And the quote goes on, I don't want to go too much into it. "It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us." But those first two sentences, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. Just imagine that. And I've thought long and hard about that. And just imagine if you knew you were powerful beyond measure. Why would that be your deepest fear? Why? Because you would have no excuse to stop you from doing whatever you are passionate about pursuing. And your heroes would urge you to do what you are passionate about doing and pursuing what you're passionate about pursuing. So think about that quote, quoted by Nelson Mandela. Now, time for a bit of levity before I depart this week's show. And I love metaphors, I love analogies, and there's just a couple of actual analogies and metaphors found in high school essays that made me laugh. I hope they make you laugh. Her face was a perfect oval, like a circle that it had its two sides gently compressed by a thigh master. Another one, she grew on him like she was a colony of E. coli and he was room temperature Canadian beef. She had a deep, throaty, genuine laugh, like that sound a dog makes just before it throws up. Imagine marking these essays. Her vocabulary was as bad as, like, whatever. He was as tall as a 6'3" tree. The revelation that his marriage of 30 years had disintegrated because of his wife's infidelity came as a rude shock, like a surcharge at a formerly surcharge-free ATM. Ah, these kids love it, love it. All right, so that's about it. Think about how this week's big idea can transform your life, make a big impact on transforming your life. And as you know, a 1% shift in your thinking can transform your life. You don't need mega shifts in everything that you do to transform your life. One idea can do that. I again invite you to visit our websites, subscribe to the podcast, to the YouTube channel, buy a copy of Passionate People Produce, Passionate Performance. Immerse yourself in supportive, nourishing, fulfilling information that helps you learn and grow in the direction in which you want your life to go. Thank you for being with us. I wish for you a wonderful, challenging, fun-filled, provocative week where you continue to progress in experiencing this wonderful gift that we have, this very short gift. And even though I'm going to be here till I'm at least 120 years of age, this very short gift of life in the billion years of existence of this universe. Thanks for being with us. See you next week.